Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Real Talk with Eugene. And I have the honor and I have the privilege and I have the blessing of having on today my beautiful new friend, the Reverend Lane Cobb, who is in Baltimore.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, by way of New York, but yes, I am in Baltimore.
I knew there was a New York vibe there. Yeah. Good morning, Lane. How are you?
Good morning. I'm lovely. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited for this conversation to
Yeah.
see what unfolds here.
Right? And that's what it really is. It's like, okay, let's dive in and see what unfolds. And one of the things that Lane and I talked about before we got on, and we did our prayer work as well, but about, how the stuff that we go through, but then getting to how do we get through that? How do we heal that? How do we, right? So, but let's just jump right on in. And as usual, I ask my guests here on Real Talk with Eugene, that would be me. um, what is on your heart, Lane? Yeah, what's on your heart, especially being a spiritual leader during these times, with all that stuff that we bring with us as we were growing up, and now we find ourselves here in this position, right? To spiritually lead, whatever that means.
Yes, indeed. But whatever that means, yeah, I do love that because spiritual leadership can mean so many things, and we show up. We show up how we show up. We show up how we show up when we show up, and kind of guided by spirit to that we and pray that we intuitively show up in the way that the world needs to see us, whoever is sitting in front of us at the time. Because sometimes to come with an agenda is not a particular spiritual place to be sometimes. And I think that the world has gotten quite heavy. And yet I know there are people that just soar above it all. They just understand that this is, I've talked to folks who say, well, this is a phase. The world is going through a phase. And it is not the end, even though everything feels like an emergency.
Right.
Can be quite a scary place to be. There's a lot of fear in the world. There's a lot of just a lot of emotion that is not particularly healing. So I think it falls on all of us, our spiritual leaders and spiritual people, and just people who speak from the heart, to come with the presence of God or the God of your understanding, whatever that may be. And even if you're just being present, saying nothing, holding space, it is an act of love.
Yeah.
It is an act of love. And what is needed here is profound love.
Right. Right. I love what you said, even if it's just to hold that space, because sometimes, where I am concerned, that's the only thing that I am called to be and called to do, is just to hold that space, and I've said often throughout the year, if not more, that all of us who are on this spiritual path, and we are all on the spiritual path. Some people don't know that's what it is, and so they whatever. But those of us who are consciously doing this work, and along with everybody else, I think that we are all, I feel, believe, and know that we are all here at this time for a particular reason, and that is to show up, right? And so what I have done in my life is, in the past, looked at all of the things that I've gone through to get me here, right? Because one of the things that I know for me is when spirit starts tapping on the door of my heart, and when I just open it just a little bit, then life will begin to change, and then I show up in doing things, and speaking and writing, and it's all for assisting the planet in its healing process through this phase, because it's just a phase. But oh my God, it's a heavy phase, it feels like at times.
Woo, yeah.
You know, going through stuff, you know, in the past with family and you know, marriages, and then divorces and kids, and then space between that, you know, and because you had mentioned about, you know, the grief and the trauma. What I've learned, what I've come to learn and experience, Lane, is that that stuff, when I allow it to, can be used to help me grow. You know, one of the things I say is going through the bullshit, but bullshit can be, when I choose to do this, can be manure for the new growth.
Yeah.
Right? How do I want to use that experience? How am I showing up? How did I show up? What could I have said differently? What could I have done, you know, did differently? And it didn't dawn on me until years after, you know, me doing that. I realized, oh, I'm here for this purpose of spreading whatever it is I am to spread. You know, the light, the love, the joy. Whew.
Mm.
And sometimes it's not for sissies.
No, it is not. It is not. It can be, I'll tell you, I've gotten off that path many times. You know, I've gotten off and kind of sat down in the grass, if you will, if you imagine being on the path, a spiritual path, a purposeful path, the path of fulfillment, the path of fulfillment, as you were saying, to show up, and just said, I don't want to show up.
Right?
I'm going to sit down. You know, so I've seen myself getting off the path, lying down on the grass, looking up at the sky, asking God why, you know, what the heck, you know, and then I've seen myself getting back on the path, sitting on the path, looking. I'm one of those folks, and you know, I don't like to admit it sometimes, because some of the times when you're like a leader, you think you're supposed to show up in a particular way.
Mm.
And what I really need to keep remembering is that I'm not perfect, and I'm not supposed to be perfect. And if I don't show up as perfect, the people who also feel that imperfection are drawn. So when I was doing a lot of personal life coaching and wellness coaching, I recognized that, and I specialize in women's issues. So the women that were coming to me, my clients, had experienced many of the same traumas, the same disappointments, the same fear points that I had experienced. And I know that's not an accident. I know that one of the things that we say is that God gives us our hardships so that we can then use it to help other people who are on that path through
Right.
their hardship, so that they can then move forward into their full potential. And so just recently, I have kind of decided that, I guess I'm starting something new here. I'm kind of recently ordained. So as I say, a life coach and a wellness coach and a physical trainer and a massage therapist, and somebody coming at wellness from all these different experiences, but always coming from a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see people for the whole person, you know, we have an appreciation for who that person is as a spiritual being having a human experience.
Right.
And we can be so much more tender with ourselves as well. And it's kind of vice versa. If we can be tender with ourselves, then we can be tender with others, and then we can be and then other people. It's just this whole kind of wave of, I see you.
Yeah.
I see you. And I think that's one of the things that that is a little bit challenging these days, is that people don't, well, number one, people don't want to be seen. I think that's very scary, right? Because there's a whole thing about stigma and weakness and being left behind. And, you know, there's a lot going on with fear and insecurity. And when you're insecure, you don't want the insecurity to be seen. You want you want to kind of cover that stuff up. And God knows I mean, I got the t-shirt on that one. But I think also a lot of us do. And when we can actually be aware that that is what's going on, and perhaps that is what is standing in the way of our fulfillment, our happiness, our growth, uh, our ability to connect with someone on a soul level. That self-protection is actually what's in the way. Then we can actually have some facility, and we can choose. Do I want to protect myself, or do I want to have a relationship? And then to look and see, well, what is it that I'm protecting myself from? Is it actually something to protect myself from? Just to notice that that's you're having an amygdala experience, if you will, right? That fight or flight. And spirituality being the basis for a lot of this ability to move through, right? Is a gift. It's a gift that God has given us, the ability to be human with all of that stuff that comes along with that.
Right.
And then also to be a spiritual being and connect and to see it on as a spectrum, right? It's kind of a wave. It's not human on this side, spirituality on that side.
Right.
Right? It is just all right there in one space, as you were saying in your opening prayer, one space of God, of beingness. And it's just such a lovely, poignant place to be. And it can be a challenge to get there sometimes.
Yep.
Practice, practice, practice. Yeah, and I have to say, it's a privilege. I don't take it for granted at all when someone trusts me, when people trust me to bring something that helps them to see more of themselves. Really, that's my thing. It's like I am here not to tell you the truth,
Right.
but to help you discover
Right.
your truth.
Right.
And to accept yourself, to allow yourself to see everything and all of who you are, and then to celebrate that self. Yeah, what a gift, right? What a gift. It's just a gift when someone allows you to see them. It's a treasure.
Right. It truly is. I was speaking with somebody last week about this. I can't remember exactly who it was. I'm sure the name will come back up. But being willing to be seen while in the dark.
Yeah, well. Yeah, well.
Well, then there's that.
And I'm going to be, and this is one of the things that I have, and being transparent on these days, is because what I recognized is that for many years, I was really grappling with, and have been, and still do, grappling with depression and anxiety, coming from childhood trauma and all kinds of regrets, having not taken path that I thought I should take. I mean, just all of this kind of argument with God and the whole, and so just being able to say, as I said before, I didn't finish the sentence, I'm starting in with something new. I'm thinking about how do I do what you've done and touch people globally with a message. And part of it is to admit that I have received a bipolar diagnosis, and that a lot of people have the bipolar diagnosis, and it's like, people are going, really? You do? Because, when you show up with your spiritual self and people are looking at you going, oh my gosh, she's got it all together. I just want to be you when I grow up. And, it's like, oh, I want to be me when I grow up too. Or,
right.
Yeah. And so there is such love in being transparent. And as I say, that came to me kind of recently, because I've experienced over the last 5 years, I think, is this like a steady stream of losses. And and I think a lot of people feel that they've lost a lot these days. They feel like the rug is being pulled out from under them. All of the institutions that we thought were going to be there to support us are no longer there, or they're dying off. The government is doing this, the viruses, and people are, it's just, and the planet, of course. So we're really being shaken because
Right.
the planet, people don't understand, the connection that we are to the earth. The people understand we are earth, right?
Mhm.
So if your planet is dying, you're dying.
Right.
There's something that's being shaken. And so the people feel this shakiness. And when we're in grief, sometimes it is not easy to see your way out right away. And sometimes you have to say, it's okay. I'm going to sit in it. I'm going to let it be there.
Right.
I'm just going to let it be there, and not necessarily close off so you don't see other stuff. But maybe you're not going to move right now.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
you're not going to move right now. And so this is part of the self-acceptance pathway, I think. It's just to allow what is, and not to fight against it, and try to keep it all under control. And for women, this is a big deal too, and you know that, right?
Right.
I specialize in women's issues. Trying to hold it all together is one of those things that people kind of look at us to do, like, mom will handle it, or
Right. Right. You said something that's very important that I want to talk about just a bit, and that's that part about self-acceptance. Yeah, which for me is an act of self-love. To accept myself completely, no matter what. I call that unconditional love, because we've heard that phrase used so many times, right? I love you unconditionally. And I've said this before in the Real Talk, I'm sure, where sometimes people don't really get what that means, unconditional love. And for me, it means that I love you no matter what you do or don't do, no matter what you've done or don't, or say or don't say, And so then, but the important part is to turn that unconditional love back on me. Do I love me unconditionally? Do I accept myself completely for what I've done or not done? Or what I've said or didn't say, and that self-acceptance is I find with clients and students that I work with, is a crucial part.
Well, that's the challenge.
Right.
It's a key. It really is a key that unlocks a lot of doors.
Yeah.
It really it's a key.
Yeah.
And you're right. I talk about unconditional love a lot in my books, and one in particular for women who are really kind of reinventing themselves. And in the women I've spoken to with and in front of, that unconditional love is so hard for women. It's in our socialization, we are looked at as weaker, or we have to be sexy, pretty. Right. Can't get angry. We can't, we just have to. It's kind of like that. And so the need to have all your ducks in a row before you show up for prime time.
Right.
It really does not allow for unconditional love. And forgiveness is such a big part of that too, right, Eugene? I mean, right. Really, it's like, right. Okay, let's take a deep breath, and we're going to make a list of all the things we haven't forgiven ourselves for yet. And then all the things that we will forgive ourselves for, and just look and see what that means. Because, they say, well, does that mean that I have to, somebody did this? And I'm like, it doesn't mean you condone what they did.
That's right.
You're not condoning that someone hurt you. And what you are doing is saying, I'm not willing to hold on to this, because it really doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve them. And it just doesn't serve. Right. And, and there's so much more to the process, but, the basis of saying, I'm willing to let go of that. Right. There's a whole other process of taking responsibility, and, there's a lot.
Yeah, there is. And I and I'm glad that you brought that up in terms of the forgiveness, especially of self, because that's also an act of self-love. and self-acceptance. And again, just to repeat what you said, forgiveness doesn't mean that I condone the act. One of the things I've learned about forgiveness is to accept that the act did happen. Okay, that is what happened. That's what went on. Okay, that's what happened. I accept that happened. I don't condone it, and I'm willing to let go of the hurt and the resentment. That's what, for me,
Resentment.
forgiveness is. A self forgiveness is an interesting thing. I'm sure you've come across this as well, Lane. During your practice, where when we talk about the other F word, forgiveness, that people say, God, it's easier for me to forgive someone else. It's so hard to forgive myself.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Right?
Exactly what I was going to
And
say.
then my question to them is then, okay, if you haven't gotten to the point of forgiving yourself, then how much have you really forgiven that person? Because there's a connection there,
Yeah.
and I'm still playing around with that question. If have I forgiven that person completely? If I have not forgiven me?
That's an interesting subject. I think I have a thought on that, though, that might be a little bit different.
Good.
In that I think often, and I can't, again, I specialize in women, but that does not mean that what I'm saying is not true for men as
Correct.
well, because we
Correct.
are really, it's just the circle.
Right.
It's just, a chromosome, basically, that we blame ourselves for allowing it to happen. We blame ourselves for allowing whatever happened to happen.
Right.
Particularly if it happened in childhood, because that children take responsibility for everything.
Right.
Because if there wasn't something wrong with me, that wouldn't be happening.
Right.
If I was okay, then I wouldn't be getting abused, or I wouldn't be getting hurt, or I wouldn't be getting deprived. I wouldn't be having these feelings of being out of control right now. It must be me. And so we internalize that. It's shame, guilt, regret. All of those things are self-inflicted, and they're self-directed. We don't have shame about somebody else. We don't have guilt. We do, but it's really self-directed. And
Right.
so
Right.
I think that is one of the reasons why that self-forgiveness may be a little more difficult than the other person. I completely get what you're saying, that
Right.
it is connected, and that there is something about, I don't deserve to be forgiven. I'm not worthy of
Right.
forgiveness. I did a bad thing. If I had been more careful, more diligent, then this would not have happened. And I cannot let myself off for that.
Whew. And that whew is about God, and that's painful.
Oh, yeah.
It's painful, but then we learn how to mask that pain. And of course, being the creative human beings that we are, we come up with so many ways of masking it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, and all of that. It can just be, just let me push it down.
It can be that. It could also be workaholic.
Right.
I got to make a lot of money. I have to be busy all the time. All of that. It can be anything.
Just don't let me look at that.
Just exactly. Don't let me look at that.
I don't want to look at that.
Because it hurts. And so all of that, we were talking earlier about the need to self-protect. I was just going to say something, but I don't remember what it was. I forgot. It'll come back to me.
Right.
It'll come back to me, whatever I was going to say. But yeah, it really is that need to self-protect and redirect, right? And so what we really want people to kind of do is be courageous. It does take, it takes courage. And that is why I think what we do is so important. And again, such a privilege
Right.
is that we get to kind of sit with people while they look, you know, at something that they perhaps even may have forgotten about until the minute, you know,
Right.
until we just say something, a sentence, you know, they feel soft enough with us and safe enough with us to actually see something.
Yeah.
And then what can open up? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What can open up? It's just the most glorious, beautiful.
Right.
Ah, to see the humanity.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It really is. You know, and which is one of the reasons why I love the work that I get to do and love the way, and I'm sure you love the same, maybe some of the same reason why you love the work that you get to do is because we get to watch that. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not here to give you the answers. I'm here to help you get to the answer for yourself.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
You know,
yes.
and looking at self and oh man, this goes back many, many years, 20 plus years. And had just come out of a divorce that for me was just so very hard, very hard. And hadn't done well. I was going to say, and hadn't done the healing that I need to do before getting into the next relationship. But I pause right now because maybe that was a part. Well, it was a part of the process to heal. But there's this one relationship, Lane, that I was in. And this woman loved me immensely, scared me to death, where I ran from that relationship twice. And it was the second time, because after a year or so had gone by, then we got back together and I was just scared, was just so very scared. And it was that second time that had me stop and go, okay, Eugene, let's look at you. What is it about love that you're afraid of? Why are you afraid to not just give? Not, it wasn't about giving love. Why are you afraid to receive it? Because that shit scared it scared me, you know.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
when my healing process began, you know. And it was such a wonderful um, part of my life. Painful. Wouldn't wish that on anyone at all. However, I had to go through that to become the man that I am now.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely we do. Absolutely
Yeah.
we do. There's a whole thing that your mess is your ministry, you know, those type of things, you
Your
know.
mess is your
Your
ministry.
mess is your, you haven't heard that? Your mess is your,
No.
yeah. It's like what you lived through, that is your gift. That is, you know, it's a gift to you and to others. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
using that one.
So much to see. Oh, you're writing that down? All
Oh
right. Well,
yeah.
make sure you give me credit.
Oh, I am. Don't worry. Don't worry.
When you write your next book, say, here, your message, your ministry, and I got this from Reverend Lane Cobb
And
in
that's it. As
2020.
Reverend Lane Cobb says.
Absolutely. One of the things that I gave a talk once, and I think it was called Getting Your Due for Just Being You, and it was about authentic self-expression. It was exactly about what we're talking about here. The whole issue of worthiness and transparency and being willing to bring all of you to the table, not just the stuff that you consider to be the good stuff.
Right.
And I mean, ultimately, if you can see all of it to be the good stuff, that would be wonderful. But what we were talking about is that when you do put on these little pieces of armor, and it starts very early, do you know what I mean? Whatever happens, you know, your mom forgot to pick you up at nursery school, there's a piece of armor.
Right.
You know, your brother ate the last cruller, there's a piece of armor. All of that, you know, your boyfriend broke up with you, you didn't pass the test. There is so much. You didn't make the cheerleading squad, whatever that is, you didn't get the job. And so by the time you get to our age, potentially you've got so much armor on that you can barely walk. Yeah, I mean, really, how can you be free wearing all of that? And we put the armor on to keep stuff out. To keep stuff out, right? We don't want to be hurt again.
Right.
What we forget is that it keeps us in.
Right.
And it also keeps the good stuff out.
Right.
What you were saying about not being able to receive love.
Right.
You got too much armor on.
Right.
Just take one little piece of armor off, and let's see if we can love that little piece.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah.
You know, that self-forgiveness, I want to come back to that, because that's a part of, that's a part of the tool that helps to take those chinks of the armor off. You know, okay, let me forgive myself, and let me forgive them too. You know, yeah, kids, man, sheesh. Yeah, things that have happened to kids, you know, at a young age, and how children take on that blame. Yeah. What did I do? You know, and then bury that and not knowing that. Yeah.
That's right. Not know that. Yeah, because they don't have the facility.
Right.
They don't have the ability to be aware on that level.
Right.
So they do what they know how to do. And I think that's true for all of us. There's something that we say about, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to have people look and say, listen, that's the facility you had at that point. And now let's look at it from this, where you are now, from the wisdom that you have now. You know, what is the awareness that you have now? Can we restory that a bit, or can we look at that from a different perspective?
Right.
You know, can we look at it from what happened rather than what we made it mean?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we get to love. You know, here's the thing that I know, and it's my own experience, and in working with clients, you know, throughout the years, is we may have grown up, but that child is still there.
Oh, honey. Yes, at every single age, Eugene. Okay.
Right.
On my altar, I have a picture of me. I think I'm probably 2 years old. I have one at 7. I have another one that looks like 13. Then I have because they're all right here.
She's all right there. Right.
Yeah. Right. And you know, and if sometimes I look through the 2-year-old's eyes, sometimes I look through the 7-year-old's eyes. But the important thing for me is to look at the photo and my eyes into their eyes, and to say, you're safe, you're loved, you're brilliant, you're wonderful. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, because I had a coach once, and I do share this, and I feel like I'm babbling, so I'm sorry if I'm.
No, you're good. It's all good.
I'm like,
no,
that's
like good.
Such good stuff I want to say. But I love this. I had a coach, and I had 2 of them. One of them asked me, when was I going to put down the stick? And I said, what stick? And she said, the one you're using to beat yourself over the head with.
Whew.
Yeah, isn't that great?
Yeah.
And another one said to me, she said, you know, she said, I have 2 sons. And she said, you know, they're little. I have to take them with me, like to the grocery store and things. She said, you know, but they don't always want to go. And, you know, sometimes they're and she said, but do you think I let them drive the car? She said, do you think I let them, you know, just kind of wreak havoc? And I'll say, okay, yeah, I don't want to go. I'm not going. You don't want to go to the store? We won't go to the store. I said, no, of course not. She said, you know, sometimes we have to be. She said, but if I discipline them, do you think I tell them? Do they think I yell at them like, da-da-da-da-da? She said, I don't. She said, what we need to do is we need to be the loving adult.
Right.
In the lives of our inner child. Because the inner child is hurt.
Right.
When it doesn't receive love.
Right.
And if we didn't get love then, and this goes back to what I was saying about perspective and awareness, as a loving adult now, we can then bring our inner child and be that loving adult. Don't continue to beat yourself over the head or spank your inner child or tell your inner child to shut up.
Right.
Because I think we do that a lot. Shut up. Or just say, that was then, that was then, that was then, and talk to the hand.
Right.
And the inner child will keep throwing tantrums
That's right.
until you listen. Until you listen.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going on in Washington. I mean, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but those people need love like I've never seen before.
Right. Right. Exactly.
They're just hurt. They haven't been loved. They're hurt. They're afraid.
Right.
And they're just going at it because they think that's how it's going to work for them.
Right. Exactly.
That's survival for them.
Right.
And love can heal them. Love heals our hurts. And as trite as it sounds, man.
Right. But it's true.
Oh,
but it's true.
True.
I want to let the viewers know, and I just want to bring this up because you talked about a process that you do with the pictures that you have of yourself when you were younger, and looking into the eyes of the picture and just bringing that in, just spreading love all around that. And what I want to say is that we don't need to have pictures. So folks, if you don't have pictures of yourself, great, that's okay. But make it a point to sit down and tap into that child. And it's there because it doesn't be quiet. It's always going, what about me? And what about me? Because I'm scared. And how come so take that child and just give it love.
Yeah.
For me, because I'm such a visual person, and my imagination is the way it is. And I sit down and I imagine myself, my 7-year-old is brilliant. Oh my God.
Yeah, 7 years old are brilliant.
Right? Those are the ones.
Talk about something about that. Remind me to come back to that.
Okay, let me write that down. Because that's the one who experimented and was just full of life, but then was also hurt.
Yes.
But is always there wanting to guide.
Yes.
Right. So when I finally oh wow, wow.
Did you just see something?
That 7-year-old was so full of life and energy and creativity. And so what I just got, well, let me slow down. So I would bring him into my awareness and would love him and say that it's okay. What I just got, Lane, is that during those times from now on, every once in a while when I bring him into this space, I'm going to allow him to guide me. To heal that part, because at that age, 6, 7, 8, 9, oh man, just living life full out. And that's who wants to come out now, like, hey, can Eugene come out and play? Right?
Yeah.
So to allow that part of me to guide me to have that fun, which I do. I have bunches of fun, as you know.
I can tell that you do.
We sit and laugh all, so but to allow that more, okay. 7-year-old, you're going to say.
Well, let me just say as well that, I think one of the things also for us to do is to allow ourselves to have more fun.
Absolutely.
Not to take ourselves so seriously, not feel like and not work so hard and all those crazy things, and not feel guilty if we don't work hard. I mean, honestly. So having fun is a good thing. It frees us up for love and joy, right? But it is scientifically, and I don't know how on earth, now science, spiritual, psychospirituality, I don't know how on earth they came to this, but I'm sure you've heard this, that everything that we know about the world, we have learned by 7.
Right.
Like the way we come at the world.
Right.
Is from the perspective of a 7-year-old. And that's why I said, when you said 7, if people really look, they will see that that a lot happened at the age of 7. Your awareness kind of starts in one line, right? and it becomes very permanent. Like, oh, this is the way to survive that, and this is the way to, and this is, and to when you, it's just, that's such a revelation. Like when I'm like, oh my God, you could just see where a lot of the stories came from, a lot of things that you believe to be true that perhaps are not. And also that, yeah, sometimes if you do release your 7-year-old, because 7-year-olds just want to have fun. They didn't want to learn all that stuff. First of all, they didn't even want to learn that stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
First of all, they weren't even interested.
This is stupid. Right.
Right? Yes. It's like, why?
Right.
So it is just kind of an amazing thing for people to actually get that. And maybe when people view this, they'll kind of experiment and say,
I hope
what
so.
was I like at 7? What was I doing at 7? What did I learn when I was 7? Perhaps which of my ideas or my ideals or values have been with me.
Right. Right. And something just popped up, because when whoever sees this, somebody might say, well, but my childhood wasn't all that great. And I get that. So we get to heal that, because that was just a part. What about this part over here that wanted to go out and play, wanted to, to be creative, to be, this is the thing that I think that most adults have lost as we grew up, was the ability to imagine. Now with kids, they call it, well, let's play pretend. Their imagination.
Yeah.
Now, wasn't it Einstein who said that imagination is more important than knowledge?
Yes, indeed.
That everything that is around us was imagined? Oh, please. Yeah.
I love it. I'm reading, I don't know if you're aware of this person, Walter Stark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah. And, I'm reading some of his stuff, and he's saying that everything is consciousness, everything. So that there isn't anything that exists. Everything is consciousness manifested. And I hadn't really thought of it that way. Like there wouldn't be anything coming into the earth or the world if somebody hadn't thought of it.
Right.
And then they invented something, and then it became part of our lives, and then we eventually take it for granted, but we don't realize, we don't think about it as consciousness. And we tend to not also think about, we also don't think about that we are a part of that, right? We think of things as apart from us.
Right.
And, I'm not the television, I'm not, or I'm not the tree. I mean, we can get very earthy, or we can get very technical about it. But either way, we are that.
We are that.
And when we consider that we are that, it kind of opens the door for a different type of experience, an appreciation, right? A different experience of how we do life.
Right.
How we do life. So
to be given the gift to create through our thoughts, that is huge.
It's amazing.
Yeah. That is huge. Yeah, man, it's like,
and it is. I mean, and it's what we're being told to do anyway.
Right.
It's what we're trained to do.
Right.
I think one of the things about the modern age is that we're not allowing children to use their imagination. And so that is one of the tragedies of the whole technological age. Is
right.
We just, and when you lose your imagination,
Whew.
You lose your ability to invent new stuff.
Right.
And how important is that for a joyful life, to invent something new when what you're experiencing right now might not be working? Yeah.
Yeah. Scripture which is what I love, because I had to get out of scripture, then come back to it. I'm like, oh, now I can see the scientific, the metaphysical meaning behind all of this. And then I get to play with it too. I love words. So in the book of Genesis, and this speaks to you saying that sometimes we just get too serious. In the book of Genesis, it says, and God said, let there be light. I believe that was a typo. I think it was said, and God said, lighten up. Because it's not that serious. Just lighten up. right? But also the other flip side to that, lighten up, meaning to lighten up, shine your light.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
right.
But lighten up. Yeah, it's not all that serious.
Yeah. I mean, and if it all starts from light, if it's light and then we come from light, right? If that was the first thing God said, then guess what? We are the light.
Right?
You know?
And here's what I love about all of that. And because out, and I got this out of a meditation that I did years ago. And the words that came out of my mouth was, out of the stillness, the activity of God is whatever it does. And out of the silence, the word is spoken, but out of the darkness, the light comes. So sometimes we may need that light, that darkness, so that we can shine that light more. Because we don't want to be in that dark. It doesn't feel all that good. Sometimes it's good to sit there, as you said earlier, let me just get off the path and stay in the grass. But out of that darkness comes the light. You know, this thing called life is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Reverend Lane Cobb, I cannot believe we've been on for this long.
Well, it's certainly been my pleasure and a joy, Eugene. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. And we will be doing this again soon.
That was my pleasure.
Yeah, the plan is to have a few of us on that one time, just sharing, right? Having this real talk, this real conversation with real folks, and everybody is real. They may not act it all the time.
Right.
Hey, I have a note here. Get contact information. So Reverend Lane Cobb, if people wanted to get in contact with you, where would they go?
You can go to, let me see. Let's use Lane at lanecobb.com. How's that? That's the easiest one.
Okay.
I had to go behind my eyeballs to find out which one was the best. And if you'd like to look at my books, you can find the book on Amazon. I have a couple of them. One is Heal Your Power, Heal Your Life. And the other is Be Your Biggest Champion, a self-esteem guide for teen girls. And I'd love for you to check those out as well.
Great. Thank you so very much. Reverend Lane Cobb, thank you.
It's my pleasure.
And I'll be speaking with you soon, okay?
Yep, I'll be ready.
Peace and blessings.
Blessings.